But the other word in Hebrew that God uses to describe grumbling and complaining literally means whispered rebellion. So there's a physical nature to it where they're so angry, it's almost as if they're going to fight, yet it's whispered rebellion. As if when you say it quieter, it's less rebellion. Worship him, yet then we live the rest of our life with whispered, quiet rebellion in grumbling. When we grumble, we are rebelling against God and declaring our distrust in his sovereign rule over our lives. We are saying that what God has given is not good enough. That's what the children of God are doing here. God had sent the plagues and powerfully rescued them from Egypt. He had led them through the Red Sea on dry ground, rescued them from the Egyptian army. And then, as if they thought providing food, oh, that's probably too hard for God. He did all those other amazing cool things. He can't do this. It's revealing a rebellion against God and declaring a distrust of his sovereign plan for your life. When you are faced with things that you don't like and you want to grumble and complain about it, you are saying, what God has given me is not good enough. One person said, grumbling is based on guilty unbelief and disobedience. Well, it gets worse because they didn't learn their lesson here. God provided water for them, but it tells us when they get to the promised land, the final destination. In Numbers chapter 14, verse 11, it tells us that they get to the promised land. They send spies in. The spies come back and go, no way, we can't do it. Those people are giant. It's fortified. There's no way we're going to win a war there. Let me tell you, the people in the promised land were weaker than Egypt. They said, oh, God comes to a final conclusion here in which the Lord, even in Numbers chapter 14, tells us he was ready to destroy all of the Israelites and start over with Moses. He said, I'm gonna get rid of all of them. This distrusting, unbelieving, grumbling nation, I'm going to destroy and wipe them off the map and start over again with you, Moses. And the only reason God didn't do that was because Moses interceded on their behalf. Because their grumbling was revealing great distrust and open rebellion to God. Paul picks up on this in 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 9, and gives us a warning also. And he says, we must not put Christ to the test, as some of them did, and were destroyed by serpents, nor grumble, as some of them did, and were destroyed by the destroyer. It is incredible the consequences that came to God's people because of their grumbling. Grumbling is a big deal, and it brings great consequences. We must be very cautious about the danger of substituting our own expectations for God's promises and then complaining to God when it doesn't work out. Okay? We must be careful in substituting our own desires and expectations for God's promises. And that's when we start getting really grumpy and complaining about it. Before we move on to the next point, James chapter 5, verse 9 tells us this. James 5:9, do not grumble against one another, brothers, so that you may not be judged. Behold, the judge is standing at the door. Grumbling brings great consequences. And here's what this shows us. Grumbling is not a minor sin. Grumbling and complaining is not a minor sin. And the children of God have a terrible track record of grumbling. And if we're honest, you and I also, I'm talking to myself as much as you, we are a whiny, complaining, grumbling group of people, and that is not a minor sin. Why is grumbling such a big deal? Because of the children of God's past terrible track record. God's people are notoriously guilty of the bad habit of grumbling. Very few things. Look, there's always a reason to grumble. Okay, they were legitimately hungry. They were legitimately thirsty. They were legitimately scared.